Good morning, everyone. Wherever you are, I hope you are safe. I hope you're warm, and I hope we get to worship together next week. But in the meantime, I have a bit of a confession to make. You see, when it comes to matters of technology, I am a stereotypical man. I'll figure out whatever it is, just leave me alone, and for goodness sake, don't hand me the instruction booklet. I can do this. It shows up just as much as when I'm driving somewhere using the GPS. You know, it really used to bug me when Michaela would be, to put it nicely, backseat driving. And when she stopped, I realized more often than not, I actually needed her to help point out my turn, because if there are other people in the car, I would be talking and realize I am speeding right by my turn just a little bit too late. So now I asked her to point things like that out. And even if I know it's coming, I still have her do it, because I know what will happen if I don't. We take some rather interesting detours. Things like this also show up when I'm troubleshooting technology. You may have heard that I have a tendency to scare technology into working, because on more than one occasion I have been called in to help oversee something just when it figures itself out. So by the time I look, the problem is gone. It's kind of like praying for patience, I think. You know, God answers that prayer by throwing you into situations where you will develop patience. And we're so blessed to have a wonderful recording system here in the church. It is truly awesome to behold when it is working at 100%, but alas, that is not always the case. On more than one occasion, I will spend hours trying various settings in order to prepare for our Sunday services to no avail, only for the struggle to continue when I get home. After days like that, more often than not, I will sit down expecting to relax, maybe play a game or watch something on Netflix, in order to discover that our Wi-Fi seems to be on the fritz. No problem, I know what to do there. I turn our modem off, reset the system, and hope to enjoy the game. Nope, that didn't work. So, after trying it a few times, I eventually resolved to calling customer service. They answered right away and directed me to a live person rather than taking several steps with an automated system, much to my relief. The tech was very friendly, but I knew he was about to walk me through everything that I had already done before making that phone call. But I knew I had to go through the process with them if I wanted help. Sure enough, we turned things off and on, checked the signal, looked to see if other Wi-Fi signals were listed, and then he asked me to take a paperclip and press the reset button through a pinhole on the back of the machine. I thought, okay, that's something I haven't tried yet. Maybe it will solve the problem. After looking around my house for about 10 minutes to find a paperclip, I managed to push the button, wait 5 seconds, and nothing happens. No lights, not even a glitch, no reset, no reaction, and he has me try it again and again before saying, I've never had this happen before, so let me put you on hold for just a minute so I can figure out our next steps. After 45 minutes on the phone, we both go through each and every step, only to finally realize that one of my cats somehow managed to pull out a plug that I wasn't looking at. So, here's my confession. I like to think I've got the know-how to fix each and every situation on my own. It's abundantly clear on Sundays, though, that I don't. Audio? As you've seen if you've been around, Greg has had to step in on more than one occasion to get that working. The PowerPoint? Malia is always ready to go to lend a hand. The Wi-Fi? I had to call customer service to find a solution, and in each of these situations, I realized I needed help. I was frustrated, I was ornery, and I found myself taking a lot of deep breaths. And you may have noticed that I've used that word a lot so far. And then I sit down on Monday mornings. I open a text to prepare for this morning's message, and I read through the text, the wonderful inclement snow going, "All right, God, that's not funny." But God had me settle down a little bit, as if he smacked me upside the head, asking me if I was catching on yet. So in that spirit, let's dive into Luke this morning. As Jesus goes to Jerusalem, there is a centurion. You might be wondering, what is a centurion? Well, I'm glad you asked. A centurion is a soldier. This one's stationed in Capernaum. He is a Roman and a good deal away from home. The rank of centurion means he's in command of about 100 different soldiers. In addition to this soldiers, we're told this man had servants. From what we know about the Roman army, this man was rather unique. He actually cared about the men under his authority. In fact, we're told he highly valued a particular servant who was sick to the point of death. We're not told, but I'm pretty confident that he'd done everything in his power for this individual. He made sure he had a comfortable place to rest, called in the best doctors to bring the best healing, but nothing was working. The centurion was desperate. Then he heard a Jew named Jesus was coming into town. Long story short, or as people of my generation might say, TLDR, the centurion sends for Jesus. They drag him down to heal the servant. And before he even lays eyes on him, Jesus has done the impossible. That question that comes to mind for me is, why did Jesus help out in this situation? Well, I can tell you a couple reasons it wasn't. At first glance, many would say those are the exact reasons Jesus would heal the servant, but trust me, and let's dig a little deeper before we respond. It wasn't about the centurion's station in life. As a Roman commander, he could have easily demanded that Jesus come into his home, heal this servant, pay homage to Rome, but he didn't. We're actually told that he sent some Jewish elders. Why? Why would he do this? Well, first he knew who Jesus was. He knew he was a Jew, and he may be willing to listen to those elders and be inspired to act. He also knows that the elders are motivated. They'll see an opportunity to get on the good side of one of their oppressors. If they can bring Jesus to his home, the centurion would be in their debt. So let's look at verse 4 of chapter 7. They pleaded with Jesus earnestly. The centurion is worthy of Jesus coming to perform a miracle, but what makes him that way? They point out that this person is different. He's not like most of our oppressors. He loves our nation. He's not like many of these pagans. He's built our synagogue. Because Jesus went with the elders, some might think the centurion's reputation won Jesus over. But let's continue, shall we? I don't think it was about his humility. As Jesus is approaching his home, we're told the centurion sent another set of people to speak with Jesus, this time his friends. I believe because they knew the centurion better than anyone else in the world. They would know what they're talking about when they expressed the centurion's humility, his worry. What was the message they delivered? I am not worthy to have you enter my home. Think about it. I am a Roman, a soldier. I'm your enemy, and I don't deserve to have you come into my presence. This is why I couldn't come myself. This is why I couldn't make any demands of you. But our message continues, and there's something more in his words that I believe reveals why Jesus was willing to do what he did. It wasn't about his station, not his humility, but Jesus chose to heal because he recognized the faith that was at work here. Notice the centurion's next words. Say the word and let my servant be healed. I think his explanation is what really caught Jesus' attention. The centurion truly understood the concept of authority. I am under the authority. I've been given some authority. Soldiers have places under my command, and if I tell them, they go. If I tell them to come, they come. When I tell my servant to do this, it gets done. But what's he saying here? He's saying, I know how authority works. The subjects obey the one in authority. And I know who you are, Jesus. You have authority over all domains of life, even disease itself that is threatening to take away the life of a person I care about. You don't even have to come into my house, see my presence. Just say the word and my servant will be healed. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at them. Let's just pause and think about that for a moment. Jesus heard a Roman's words and he marveled at them, marveled at him. What a truly incredible thought. Imagine today Jesus sitting on his throne in heaven and an angel shares a thought with him. Would Jesus marvel at you, and would it be in a good way? Jesus turns to the crowds and declares, "Not even in Israel have I found such faith." Now, we're not told what specific words of healing Jesus offered beyond that, but we do know that those Jewish elders, those friends to the centurion, returned to his home, without Jesus, I might add, and find that the servant was now in good health and doing well. Because Jesus saw faith at work. He didn't even need to go to the house. The messengers return to the house and they know that Jesus has healed the servant because he is that good. So my friends, today, I say I want to have faith like a Roman centurion. I want to have a faith that says, I know there are things that I can't do, but then there are things that are simply beyond my control. When I encounter those things, I have days like all this last week. I have to pray, and I have to have faith in the one whom I know I can. So how do we get there? First, we recognize by beginning our station. Because we are led by the Holy Spirit, we are children of God. We are children and not slaves, for the slave is owned and must obey often. They are oppressed, but a child is loved, cared for, corrected in a way to maintain the relationship. A reading from Romans. Because we are God's children, we can call out in our time of need. Whenever I hear the word Abba, unless it's referring to a musical group, I picture a young child calling out to their father because they know how much he loves him. I recently came across a story from another person who traveled to Israel that suggests this even more. A man had arrived at the Israeli airport and immediately went to the restroom. A Jewish man helping his son wash his hands told him, "Now, son, when I instruct you to do something, I want you to respond by calling me Abba." Not only does this term depict the love of the father for his child, but also the desire for the child to love the father because he trusts him. Being his children, we get to call him Abba Father. And being a child of God is an amazing status to have. How often do we forget the significance, though? I remember on the first day of VBS, I was presenting an opening thought to set a tone for our summer. I informed children that as they follow Christ, they are children of God. That makes them princes and princesses because they are children of a king. When kids do this, they get so excited and they cheer. Oh, to have faith of a child. But to do that, we need to humble ourselves. A reading from 1 Peter. We humble ourselves so that God may exalt us. Think about it. Nothing we have done on our own earns our way into heaven. We get there by the grace of God when we followed his commands. A while back, I saw a video of a youth group doing a skit on the goodness scale. Each person approached said scale to see if their deeds on earth had tipped the scale in their favor. And they learned in that moment that their deeds meant nothing. But when they responded to God's offer of grace by believing, by confessing, by being immersed and repenting, Jesus stepped in and access to heaven was granted. Jesus illustrates this idea when he tells the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. The Pharisee stood near the front of the synagogue where all would see him as he prayed. "I'm not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, and especially not that tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give a tithe of all I receive." And the tax collector kneels in the back, putting his head down in shame and whispers, "Be merciful to me, a sinner." Who does Jesus say was exalted by God that day? The tax collector. Because when we humble ourselves before God, he raises us up, just like the parable of the banquet. Choose the lower seats and your host will move you up, elevating you in the eyes of those around you. And finally, we need to live by faith. According to 1 Peter, we are called to cast all our anxieties on him. Anxieties, that's a perfect word for it. But why are we called to do this? Simply because he cares. God didn't create you to abandon you or to be entertained by watching you struggle. He cares for you. He's concerned about the struggles you're going through. One of my favorite worship songs back in the 90s, in part because you couldn't help move to the music, contained these lyrics. I walk by faith, each step in faith. To live by faith, I put my trust in you. But what does that look like? Maybe living by faith looks like Paul's mantra in Philippians. Wherever I may be going through, it is all for Christ's glory. So let us live by faith. If the trial or tribulation, illness or circumstance should take our life, we gain heaven. We're in a win-win situation. So friends, this week amidst the cold, the snow, I encourage you to recognize that you are a child of God and that at any time we can humble ourselves before him and we can live by faith, asking him for help when you need it. All you need to do is ask. Amen.